My name is Michael. I'm not someone who believes in ghosts, demons, or haunted houses. I've always believed that every strange event has a logical explanation. At least, that's what I believed until the day I brought home an old African gray parrot. I thought I was rescuing an abandoned bird. I had no idea. It was about to tell me something that would change my life forever. The shelter employee told me almost nothing. She only said the bird had belonged to an elderly man who recently passed away. No family wanted him. Nobody knew how old he really was. Before I left, the woman looked at me strangely, almost like she wanted to warn me about something. Instead, she simply smiled and wished me good luck. At home, everything felt perfectly normal. My 8-year-old daughter Lily was excited the moment she saw him. She immediately named him Winston. The bird didn't react. He didn't make a sound. He simply watched her, every movement, every smile, every single word. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she smiled, then pointed toward the hallway outside her bedroom. "Daddy, my friend came back," I laughed. "What friend?" She pointed again. "The tall one." I looked into the hallway. There was nobody there. Children imagine things. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. The next morning, Lily casually mentioned that she'd been talking to her friend for weeks. She said he only visited after midnight. She couldn't explain where he came from. She only knew one thing. He doesn't like when grown-ups look at him. I forced a smile, but something about those words stayed with me. That night, I heard Winston speak for the very first time. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2:15 in the morning, I heard a voice coming from downstairs. At first, I thought it was the television. I quietly walked toward the living room. The house was completely dark. Then I heard it again, a calm, unfamiliar voice. Except it wasn't coming from a person. It was Winston. The parrot had finally spoken. But what Winston said made absolutely no sense. He quietly whispered, "Lily," then he paused. "Don't answer him." The voice didn't sound emotional. It sounded like someone repeating a warning they had heard before. I rushed upstairs. Lily was asleep, alone. At least, that's what it looked like. The next morning, I asked Lily about the warning. She looked confused. "I never told Winston about my friend." Then she smiled. "He already knows him." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Children say strange things, but this didn't feel like imagination anymore. That afternoon, I installed security cameras. One outside Lily's bedroom, another facing the upstairs hallway. I felt ridiculous doing it. I kept telling myself, this would prove there was nothing there. I wanted evidence, not ghost stories. The footage from the first night showed nothing. The second night, nothing again. But on the third night, at exactly 2:14 a.m., Lily quietly walked into the hallway. She wasn't sleepwalking. She stopped, smiled, and looked directly at someone, standing just outside the camera's view. Then Winston spoke again. "Don't let him touch you." I replayed the security footage over and over. Lily was clearly talking. She laughed, she nodded, she even paused as if someone else was speaking. But the hallway was empty. No footsteps, no movement, nothing. Then I checked the audio. That's when everything changed. There was another voice, very quiet, too quiet to notice the first time. I increased the volume. At first, only static. Then, a whisper, barely audible. "She can hear me." I froze. That wasn't Lily. It wasn't Winston. It was someone else. Someone standing close enough to the microphone, yet completely invisible on camera. The next night, I stayed awake. No television, no phone, no lights, just silence. At exactly 2:14, Winston suddenly turned toward the staircase. His feathers puffed up. He didn't blink. Then, without moving his head, he whispered, "He's here." A few seconds later, I heard Lily's bedroom door open. Slowly, I walked upstairs as quietly as I could. She was standing in the hallway, looking into the darkness, smiling. Then she quietly asked, "Can Michael hear you now?" She didn't call me Dad. She called me Michael. The moment I reached her, she blinked, looked at me, completely confused. Dad? She had no memory of leaving her room, no memory of speaking, no memory of calling me Michael. But Winston was staring straight behind me. His eyes were locked on something standing only a few feet away. The next morning, I reviewed every second of the security footage. At exactly 2:14 a.m., the hallway was empty. Lily walked into frame. She smiled. Then, for less than a second, the camera glitched. When the image returned, there was a tall shadow standing beside her. It wasn't clear enough to identify, but it was there. And one frame later, it was gone. I showed the footage to a video analyst. He spent hours examining every frame. When he finally looked at me, his face had gone pale. He didn't ask where I recorded it. He only asked one question. Why does the shadow cast no reflection? But the little girl does? I never went back to him again that night. I packed our bags. Lily and I left the house before sunset. I never planned to return. As I carried the last box to the car, Winston suddenly screamed. Not a word, not a sentence, just one loud, desperate cry. I turned around. The upstairs bedroom curtain moved. Even though every window was closed, we moved 3 states away, a new home, a new school, a new beginning. For months, nothing happened. Until one evening, Lily walked into the kitchen, looked directly at Winston, and quietly asked, "Did he follow us?" The parrot slowly turned his head, looked into the hallway, and whispered, "Yes, that was 2 years ago." Winston never spoke about him again. Lily eventually forgot everything. At least, she says she did. Sometimes, late at night, I still wake up to hear Winston softly talking to someone in the darkness. Never loudly, never long enough for me to understand, but every single conversation ends the same way. One quiet whisper. He knows you're listening.